SAT Math Lesson 11 is all about system of equations, all right? This is, standards Heart of Algebra 4, Heart of Algebra 5, Heart of Algebra 7, okay? And you can read those right here. Now, SAT gets pretty tricky with their system questions. A lot of them are no calculator. And they set them up to, so that some of them can be solved easier than you might approach them. And it's like kind of just getting comfortable with the different, things you see and you could potentially try. Okay. First off, what is a system of equation? This is a collection of two or more equations with two or more variables. So you might see it something like, again, ax plus by equals c, and then you'll have another ax plus by equals c. So you'll see two or more equations with two or more variables. Now the solution to a system of linear equations is an ordered pair that makes all of the equations true, and that's the key part. Now the methods of solving system of equations, the graphing method, right? Basically, if you're able to easily graph them in the calculator, all you have to do is find the intersection point. Now, all of the system of equations problems, none that I've come across make it easy to one, graph, and two, a majority are no calculator. So you probably won't use the graphing method very often. So you want to be able to master substitution and elimination. Okay. Now, the first example here, right? We're going to go ahead and use the elimination method here. And the goal of the elimination, so it says, which of the following ordered pairs satisfies the system of equations above? So here's my system. The elimination method is basically trying to eliminate either the x's or the y's by adding the two equations together. So right now, if I add the x's, they don't eliminate. If I add the y's, they don't eliminate. So what I'm going to do is pick one of the equations and multiply by some number that forces that elimination. For example, if I take this top equation and multiply everything by 2, all right, 2 times x gives me 2x. 2 times y is plus 2y equals 0. Now, I'm not going to multiply the bottom equation by anything because if you look right away, when I go to add the y's together, what do they add up to? 0. So those eliminate. 2x plus 3x is 5x equals 10. And when I divide by 5, x is equal to 2. So once I do this, what I basically do is look at what answers have an x value of 2. No, yes, no, no. So right away, I don't even have to find y. Therefore, I can just find b. Now, if it's multiple choice, all right, that is one approach using elimination. But if it's a multiple choice question and they give you the ordered pairs, guys, do yourself a favor if you forget. Right away, go and just plug these values in to see which ones make both equations true. Is 3 plus negative 2 going to equal 0? No. So you know that that can't be an answer. I'll cross it out. Is 2 plus negative 2 equal to 0? I replace x with 2, y with negative 2. That's a true statement. When I check the second one, 3 times 2 minus 2 times negative 2, does this equal 10? 3 times 2 is 6. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. 6 plus 4 equals 10. That's true. So you know that that has to be the solution. Now the downfall is they don't always give you the ordered pair solutions, so you cannot always use that. But if they do and you forget how to solve it, go ahead and work backwards. All right, the next one. This is an example where you would use substitution. All right. Again, this is a no calculator, and this is a gridded response where you're not given answers. So right away here, I have one equation up top. It looks pretty ugly. I have an equation on bottom. This equation on bottom is solved for y. And when I read the question, it says, the system of equation has solution xy. what is the x value? So my goal is to eliminate y. And what's nice here is what I'm going to do is take this value of y, which is 2x, and I'm going to substitute it in here. So this would give me 1/2 times 2x plus, out with the y, in with the 2x, equals 21/2. When I combine these x terms, I get 1/2 times 4x equals 21/2. And what is half of 4x? That's going to give me 2x equals 21/2. Now remember, this is a no calculator problem and it's grid response. So there's two ways to get through this last part here. I'm going to solve this one of two ways. Number one, I could divide both sides by 2. And if I divide both sides by 2, you have to understand when I do 21/2 divided by 2, that's the same as doing 21/2, change division to multiplication, and take the reciprocal of this to get 21 times 1 is 21/4. All right. Now, you could put that fraction as you would go 21/4, or you could do 5.25. Now, the other way to do it, and I think some of you might have an easier time, is if I don't like fractions, I get rid of them. If I multiply this side by 2 and this side by 2, this eliminates that. And if I multiply this, I get 4x equals 21. Now I can go ahead and divide by 4, and you would get 21/4. Anytime I want to get rid of a fraction, I can multiply everything not in parentheses by 2. So in the next example, it says if xy is the solution to the system of equations above, what is the value of x? So again, I can't stress enough when they say just find the value of x, right? Our goal is to eliminate y. They set this problem up real easy to eliminate x, but 90% of the time they do this, and all of the assessments I've seen, the x value comes out very ugly and hard to plug back in, right? So what I'm going to do is just focus on eliminating the y's. So I'm going to turn this y into a positive 12y and this y into a negative 12y. So what would I have to multiply this top equation by to make that a 12y? 3. What would I have to multiply this bottom equation by to make that a negative 12y? Negative 4. So 3 times negative 3 is negative 9x plus 12y equals 3 times 20 is 60. Then negative 4 times 6x is negative 24x minus 12y equals negative 60. Now, that would give me negative 33x equals 0. Right away, you know you're golden, because if I divide by 33, x is equal to 0. So in your gridded response, you would just bubble in 0. Okay? Now, this problem here, this is where I'm talking about, like, a lot of times they try to make the problem harder than it needs to be. There's two approaches to this problem. Most of us, including me, right, would see, based on a system of equations above, what is the value of 5x plus 5y? We would go ahead and solve this, system, find x, find y, and then plug it in, right? I did that first myself, okay? But anytime they give you this, here's one hint of advice. Do yourself a favor. When you solve a system using elimination, you're basically adding the two equations together. So if I go ahead and do that, that 2x plus 3x is 5x, 3y plus 2y is 5y, equals 2,500. Well, if you look here, isn't that 5x plus 5y? Yeah. And basically, what does it equal? It equals 2,500. So 5x plus 5y is equal to 2,500. So in the gridded response, you would bubble in 2500. That's it. right? Now, if you go ahead and solve the system, right, the difficult way, right, I would multiply, say, the top equation by, let's make the x's become -6, -3, and then I would multiply that by 2. That would give me -6x minus 9y equals -3,600. Then 6x plus 4y equals 2 times 1,300 is 2,600. So right away, x's eliminate. -5y equals -1,000. When I divide by -5, I get y is equal to 200. And if I plug that in to either one of the equations, 2x plus 3 times 200 equals 1,200. 2x plus 600 equals 1,200. Subtract 600. 2x equals 600. X equals 300. And if I plug those in here, right, 5 times 300 plus 5 times 200 would give me 1,500 plus 1,000, which is 2,500. You get the same answer, but the first method was much easier. Now, in the next example, it says, in this system of equations, A is a constant. For which of the following values of A does the system have no solution? This is no calculator, right? So what you have to understand is, if there is no solution, that is telling you that the lines are parallel, which means the lines have equal slopes. So what is the slope of the first line here? It's in standard form, isn't it? So the slope would be the opposite of -3 is 3 over 1, which is 3. So I know right away I need to find the value of A that makes the slope of this line 3. So here's what I'm going to do. If I have -3x plus 2y, -6x, I'm replacing A with -6, the slope of this line would be the opposite of -6 is 6 over 2, which is 3. So letter A is -6 is the value of A that would make this line have a slope of 3 and go from there. If I use the other ones, right, you'll see the opposite of 3 is +3 over 2. That is not good, right? And then none of these would work. Next one. If xy is the solution to the system of equations above, what is the value of y? So now our goal is to eliminate x. The nice part about this is you see you already solved for x in this equation. So if I take that value of x, which is 4 times y plus 1, and substitute it in here, this equation would only have y's in it, and that's what I need to find. Now, I'm going to work smarter, not harder. If I have a y in the denominator, first thing I'm going to do is simplify this so that when I multiply by both sides by y, now I'm just left with x equals 6 times y. Now, where I see an x, I'm going to replace it with this. So I would get 4 times y plus 1 equals 6y. I'm going to distribute the 4. 4y plus 4 equals 6y. Subtract 4y. 6y minus 4y is 2y equals 4. And y would equal 2, which is letter A. So the next one. These decimals make it look a little more difficult, but realistically, it's not that bad. Now, this problem is a calculator-based problem, so you can use the calculator. So let's take a look. It says the system of equations is graphed in the xy plane. What is the x-coordinate of the intersection point xy of the system? Remember, The solution to a system is the intersection of the two lines, right? So basically we're solving this system and they want just the x coordinate, which means we're looking to eliminate y. When I go to eliminate y, I have 1.5 and I have 0.5. You should know that you can turn this 0.5 into a 1.5 by multiplying this equation by 3. 3 times 0.5 would give me 1.5y, and if I do negative 1.5 plus 1.5, the y's would eliminate. So 2.4x minus 1.5y equals 0.3. Then I'm going to get 4.8x plus 1.5y equals negative 3.9. Now, when I combine these, I'm going to get, this will add up to 7.2x. 0.3 minus 3.9 is going to equal negative 3.6. And when I divide by 7.2, I would get x is equal to negative 1/2. And the calculator would give you negative 0.5, which is letter A. Okay. Next one. An online bookstore sells novels and magazines. Each novel sells for $4 and each magazine sells for $1. If Sadie purchases a total of 11 novels and magazines that have a combined selling price of $20, how many novels did she purchase? So right away they tell you what your two equations are going to involve: the number of novels and the selling price, or your total bill. So right away I'm going to let n equal novels and m equal magazines. So right away, if I know I purchased a total of 11 novels and magazines, right? I know the number of novels plus the number of magazines have to add up to 11. Now I paid $4 for each novel. So the cost of the novels would be 4 times the number of novels. Then plus I paid $1 for each magazine. So that would be $1 times the number of magazines. And if I add the cost of the novels and the cost of the magazines, I spent a total of $20. Now all I have to do is solve this system. I'm going to multiply this by, remember I'm looking for the number of novels, so I'm looking to eliminate m. So I'm going to multiply this top equation by negative 1. Right? And then my bottom equation does not change. And that's going to be negative 11. So negative 1n plus 4n is 3n equals negative 11 plus 20 is 9. So the number of novels would be 3. Some of you guys can probably logically think through that, but that's the quickest way to use a system to find that. All right, the next one. This goes back to one of those tricky ones. The system of equations above has a solution xy. What is the value of x? Now, there's two ways to do this, right? The way I initially did it was I said, okay, if I'm looking for x, I eliminate y. So what I'm going to do here is solve this equation for y by multiplying by 2. And that would give me, these eliminate and leaves me with y equals 8. Now when I go in here and I'm going to plug 8 in for y, we get x minus 1/2 times 8 equals 2. Now half of 8 is 4. So it's x minus, let's do this. X minus 4 equals 2. And when I add 4 to both sides, x is equal to 6, which is letter D. Now, what they want you to see is, like the other problem we did earlier, if I add the two equations together, this gives me x, and 1/2 y minus 1/2 y eliminates x equals 6. Done. So the first method is probably something you guys might jump to, but always check to see if this potentially could be done. And the last one. Last week, Raul worked 11 more hours than Angelica. If they worked a combined total of 59 hours, how many hours did Angelica work last week? So we know Raul worked Angelica's hours plus 11, because 11 more than Angelica. So we take her hours at 11. Together, when you take Raul and Angelica and add their hours together, you get 59. Well, what I'm going to use real quick here is substitution. Take this, put it in the place of R. So A plus 11 plus A equals 59. And if I solve for A, 2A plus 11 equals 59. Subtract 11, 2A equals 48. A equals 24. Angelica worked 24 hours.